Our stories are meant to be shared. When we share our stories, that's when we connect, educate, and inspire others to be more vulnerable. The vulnerability is where growth comes from. Welcome to the Convocations program at Carleton College. I'm your host, Carrie Rott, Director of Events, and our guest today is Kaila Mullady. Kaila Mullady is a world beatbox champion, actress, educator. She performs all over the world, infusing beatboxing, singing, rapping, and theater to push the boundaries of creativity and show just what the human instrument is capable of. A multi-talented musician, Kayla has a distinct style of beatboxing, which consists of polyrhythms, avant-garde style compositions, incorporation of theatrical performance, the mouth trumpet technique, and extensive beat rhyming. She's also noted for her one-woman band performances, which incorporate singing, beatboxing, guitar, rapping, and live looping. One of the most fulfilling parts of Kayla's career has been traveling the world, teaching workshops, promoting expression and leadership through music. Her work using beatboxing as a tool for speech therapy led to a partnership with New York University, where a class was explicitly designed to build tools in the classroom for blind students based on her curriculum. Kayla travels the country, speaking at schools with the purpose of inspiring young people to find the power of their voice, stand up for what they believe in, and chase their dreams. Whether on stage in front of beatbox fans, in an auditorium speaking to students, or helping staff training at a corporate event, Kayla has seen the benefits of beatboxing and how it allows people to open up, work together, build listening skills. Kayla believes beatboxing is the perfect vehicle to allow audiences to come out of their shell and build confidence in their voice. The title of her presentation is Finding Your Voice. Welcome, Kayla.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Carrie. Thank you for having me today. And happy Friday to all of you in the Zoomiverse. Yes, as Carrie told you, my name is Kaila Mullady, and I am a beatboxer. I love beatboxing, but this is definitely not something that I ever would have, in my entire wildest dreams, thought that I would make my career. In fact, beatboxing as a career is pretty difficult. There's probably less than 100 people, maybe 50 people in the whole world who are professional beatboxers. Sure, many people have a hobby of beatboxing, they'll go to battles and such, but it's been a very difficult and long journey to get to the point where I am now, where, I have a life savings, and I get to travel all over the world beatboxing. So I want to share a bit of those skills that I developed and those kind of philosophies that got to me to where I am today. So let's take a look, okay? First of all, what is beatboxing? For those of you who have never heard beatboxing in your entire life, beatboxing is the ability to turn your mouth or lips or tongue or anything into any instrument you can imagine, right? So as a beatboxer, I can become a drum set. Come on. Right? I can become a bass guitar. Turn it up like right? I can even become a activating trumpet. Right? I can become a trumpet. I can incorporate singing and beatboxing and sound like a song on the radio. Baby, got me so pipe like, got me so pipe like dopamine. right? I can incorporate all these techniques and instruments and sound effects I want and basically become any song or style that I want. But this is definitely not how I started. In fact, if you were to ask my friends and family members what it was like to be friends with me when I was younger, it was terrible. I should be sending them edible arrangements every 2 months for the grief that I put them through. But here we are now. It all paid off. So before I begin about my journey, I want to just share the journey of beatboxing with you. Beatboxing is a US art form. It started in the United States. It started in New York City as one of the elements of hip hop, okay? And now it's this worldwide phenomenon that is in Germany and South America, North America, China, Russia, basically every country you can imagine, there's beatboxers there. So let's see kind of how it started and who were these main pioneers of beatboxing and, how it got to where it is now. So this machine that we're about to see right here, this machine is a beatbox, okay? So what we're looking at right here, this is a beatbox. And this is how we got our name. This is a machine that created synthetic, right? Or synthetic drum machine samples, okay? So we wouldn't have the big DJs that we have today. We wouldn't have the Dr. Dre's, we wouldn't have the Diplos, the Excisions, any of these DJs without this machine right here. But this machine was also extremely expensive and hard to get to. And the first person to ever call himself a human beatbox, right? A human version of this machine, his name was Dougie Fresh, okay? And he grew up in Harlem. And he went to a band, he went to a school that had band, but not everyone had enough trumpets for everyone to have. So basically every other day or every 3 days, you would actually get to, have the trumpet in your band class. And for the rest of the days, while they got passed and cycled around to the other students, all you would have was your mouthpiece. So Dougie Fresh went to the school. He really wanted to play trumpet, but on most of the days, all he had was this little kind of duck call mouthpiece for him to make music with. But instead of getting mad and being like, oh, this sucks, I'm gonna quit, he just started to see what kind of sounds and what kind of rhythms he can make with this mouthpiece. To the point where he was making all these crazy noises with his mouth, and his friend was like, hey, you sound like a human beatbox, kid. You should keep doing that. Thus sparked this revolution of this new art form. So let's take a little journey through sound, if you would. You're gonna see the pioneers of beatboxing, where it started, and then you'll see some of the newer beatboxers now. Here we go.
This is called the clicks, right? Go like this, right? And I can do it in a whole lot of different ways. I can make it sound fast, I can make it sound slow, I can make it sound any way I want it to.
So these three people that we just saw, the first one was Buffy, part of the legendary Fat Boys crew. Then we saw Dougie Fresh, the first person to ever call himself a human beatbox. And this man right here, his name is Rozelle, and he was a part of the legendary Roots crew. He actually won 2 Grammys from beatboxing, which was, before that, thought impossible, right? Beatboxing was known as this party trick and this kind of gimmick, and he took it into something that was real artistry. So these are the people who started it. This is where it is now. There's people from all over the world doing it, and there's all different styles.
Level 1 goes in. Would I make the same mistakes?
Right? So very different from what it used to be. And some of those people that you just saw, those are the like best beatboxers in the world right now and some of the most famous beatboxers. And I'm sure most of you have never seen any of them in your entire life. And that's because beatboxing is still this thing that is very underground. It's not like the rest of the elements of hip hop, right? If you're a rapper, you can make multi-million-dollar deals. You can have, record contracts and be performing in front of hundreds of thousands of people at festivals. And even if you're a break dancer, right? If you're a b-boy or you're a b-girl, if you compete and if you were in the world breaking competition, you can go home with $2 million. You can go and win battles that are like $10,000, $50,000, $200,000 battles for winning a breaking competition. When I won the World Beatboxing Championships the first time, I won a microphone and a hard drive. So it's definitely not in the same regard, and people still don't really know what beatboxing is. In fact, people still kind of think it's that 80s, oh, you beatbox? That's what I get all the time, right? But I love beatboxing. This is something that I've been doing since I was little. I was the kind of kid where my mom would come home and the pots and pans would be pulled out from the cabinet and I would make drums out of them. I would take like all the tissues out of a tissue box and do like the rubber band guitars. I don't know if any of you have ever done that. And I just made noise all the time. And the thing was, whenever I would be making noise on something, my mom would take the spoons away or the pot away or, the toys away. And when it came to beatboxing, I realized that there was nothing that they could take away, right? Yeah, sure, they could put me in a timeout in my room, but I still had my beatboxing. Now, of course, it wasn't as good as it is now. In fact, when I first started, like everyone, it just sounded like fart noises. I would do it in the back of the bus or I would do it at the lunch table. And actually, at this point in my life, I would watch videos of people on YouTube and I would see beatboxers and I would look at them and I would see them doing all the and I was like, oh, those people are aliens. They must be just born with this innate talent. Because at that point, I was just kind of and people would rap over it, right? So I used to watch those videos and be like, okay, there's no way I could do that. I'll definitely just be doing my boots and cats my whole life. But back when I was about 19 years old, I met this beatboxer and his name was J-Flow and he just happened to be in this spot in Long Island and he was one of the best beatboxers in the world or in the United States at that time. And he introduced me to a community of people in New York City. So I grew up in Long Island, about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from New York City. So this is a picture of me at my first ever beatboxing event. I'm right here. You could tell I'm very, very nervous. And this time for me was not a good time. I don't know how any of you are, what you're struggling with or what you're dealing with, but this is me at 19 years old. And at this point in my life, I was going through probably one of the hardest times of my life. I am wearing a kind of baggy flannel shirt you could see here and a kind of baggy shirt because I'm wearing a back brace in this photo. I broke my back, so I'm in a robot cage. I was also dealing with what I now know to be OCD and anxiety issues, but at that point they were just untreated because nobody knew that I was dealing with them. I was so ashamed to tell anybody what was going on with me, and I was so ashamed that I don't know, people would treat me different or that I would be different, and I didn't want to tell anybody what I was going through. I just thought that I could handle it myself. And I couldn't. And so I'm dealing with all this. I'm also at this point, I was going to school at this point to be a teacher. And I was going to school to be a teacher because basically my whole life, that's what every single person in my life was telling me that that's what I should do. My family, since I was very little, they had this idea, there was cave paintings in the Amazon rainforest, the prophecy of me working with these young children, right? So my whole life, my family was kind of selling me this thing of, oh, Kayla, you're going to grow up. Oh, it's going to be so good. You're going to grow up. You're going to become a teacher. You're going to meet somebody. You'll buy a house. You'll have a white picket fence and ba-bam, that's it. You're done. Mission complete. You won the game. Game over, right? And of course, that's not how life works. You don't have to go through anything. Everyone has their own different paths in life. But I didn't really know what else to do. So I started going to school to be a teacher, and I was not doing well. It wasn't resonating with me. I was coming home every day, and instead of doing the work that I should, I was either just like sitting and watching videos and blowing off all my responsibilities, or I was going out and partying with my friends and blowing off all my responsibilities. And of course, with anything that you blow off, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it became something that I felt like I was drowning under. So I thought there was no way out, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. But in my head, if I was being honest, I knew I wanted to perform. I wanted to learn more about acting and theater and music. But I also had imposter syndrome, right? I was like, who am I to become a performer? There's no way that that's going to happen for me. I'm not as beautiful as this person. I don't have the training like this person. I don't come from like a good family who has like a lot of resources or things like this person. I've never even been in a play or performed in front of people my whole life. But finally, it got to the point where I was depressed, I was anxious, I was overwhelmed with all of this stuff that I had been blowing off for so long. And after my like semester ended, I went back to my mom and my family and I said, "Listen, this is not for me. I don't want to be a teacher. I'm realizing that now." And you would have thought, friends, that I told my family that I had just murdered 800 people and set like a school bus full of puppies on fire. Like they completely freaked out and they were like, no, 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 you're going to be a teacher, Kayla. Like, what do you mean? And they were like, okay, wait, before we freak out, okay, then what do you want to do? You're not going to be a teacher. You're going to be what? A doctor, a lawyer, a police officer, a firefighter. What are you going to do then, right? Like there's only 10 options in life for us to choose from. And I told them, look at them dead in the face. I want to do beatboxing and improv comedy. And you would have thought, this knife, thunder and lightning, crashing, this knife right to my family's heart. They were like, you want to bebop and improve comedy? What are you talking about? They were ready to call the priest and get like an exorcism, and the priest to come and get these demons out of me. They're like, who is this girl now? And it got to the point where for the first like the year after that, 2 years after that, they were all treating me so differently. I would go to family parties and they would be having interventions with me. They were like talking about me behind my back. It was like they thought I was a different person all of a sudden. They thought I was this bad, terrible person just because I didn't want to do the thing that they wanted me to do. I had broke this identity that they had in their head of who I was. And when I finally told them who I was and who I wanted to be, they were not happy with that. So it got so bad with my one side of the family that for my dad's side of the family, I just lied to them for like 2 years about me still going to school to be a teacher because I went so bad with my other side of the family. So I would go to like holidays and they would be like, so what classes are you taking? And I'd be like, I'm taking teacher class 101. I'm taking teacher 101. That's the class I'm taking, right? So needless to say, this was a very bad time for me. I felt so lost. I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I was really trapped between who I wanted to be and going after that dream and who everybody wanted me to be. And luckily, at this point in my life, I met this guy right here in the yellow. Oddly enough, his name is Kid Lucky, right? And I met Kid Lucky, and Kid Lucky became not only my best friend, but my mentor. And I really encourage you all to find a mentor figure in your life, okay? And a mentor figure is just someone who is either the type of person you want to be, right? Has the characteristics of this person that you want to be, or is doing the thing that you want to do, and they're just further down the road than you, okay? Because when you have a mentor, they're going to be the ones that are going to let you know, hey, these are some obstacles that might come up. They're going to understand the pitfalls. They're going to understand what it feels like when things are going really good. And they're going to understand what it feels like when things are not going very good, right? So, I mean, find those people in your school, right? It could be teachers. I mean, the beauty of this time period we live in now, you can go on Instagram and DM somebody, right? That you really look after and ask them questions. We are more connected to these people than ever, right? So luckily, I just met this guy at a beatboxing event and we kind of hit it off. And he saw me and he's like, hey, why don't you come into the city? Let me know more about you. You know, I booked some beatboxing shows. And if you're into beatboxing, let's see what we can do. So we planned to go street performing in New York City. But instead, we ended up talking for like 10 hours that day. And he sits me down and he's like, okay, kid, so tell me, what's going on with your life? What's go up? Tell me about yourself. And holy moly, I just word vomited everything. I was like, my family and my back is broken and I want to do this, but I don't really know. And I think I want to do this, but my family and they think this, and there's like priests coming over and I don't know. And he was like, yo, kid, whoa. He was like, pump the brakes for a minute. He's like, just take a deep breath and tell me, what do you want to do? If you could do anything, if you had the ability to do anything, what would it be? And I was like, I don't know, it's kind of stupid, whatever, right? And he's like, no, come on, tell me. And I was like, all right. I really want to create a theater show that is beatboxing and theater at the same time. Like, I want to be able to do acting and the music and basically, be this like one woman band where I could do everything and every part of the show. And as soon as I said it and out loud, I was kind of waiting for like the recoil and the backlash that all my friends and family were giving me. But instead, he was like, yeah, that's cool. You should do that. And I was like, what? And he's like, that's cool. You should do that. That sounds like a good idea. And I realized in that moment that he was the first person in my life that gave me permission to try this thing that I wanted to do, right? Everybody else was trying to talk me out of it and telling me how crazy of an idea it was and all the reasons why it would never work. And he was the first person to be like, yeah, you should do it. Go after it. It sounds cool. And it was in this moment where I was like, hey, you know what? Yeah, like, why not? Let me just go after this thing, And I said to him, because you know what? Yeah, maybe I'll do this for a few years. And if it doesn't work out or when it fails, I'll just go back to school to be a teacher. Like plan B, even though I don't really want to do it, whatever, I'll just do that, right? And friends, there was like an earthquake. The building shook. It was like thunder, lightning. He like pounded his fist on the table. His voice bellowing, no. And I was like, no, what do you mean no? And he was like, oh, plan B, you do that. And he said, plan B? I don't have a plan B. And I was like, okay, that sounds like the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. That is definitely not a good idea, not good advice. And he was like, no, wait. He's like, don't get me wrong. I have a plan A. I have a plan 8.2.5. I have a plan 8.5.6.7 100,546. But what I will do, I do not have a plan B because I will never let my plan A fail, right? I have different versions of my plan A, but this is what I'm committed to. No matter what happens, what obstacles, I will never let plan A fail. And when he said that, I got to thinking where I was like, yeah, why before I've even started this thing? Why am I already thinking of my failure? And I'm already preparing myself for when it doesn't work out. And I literally haven't even tried at all yet. And he said, listen, kid. He said, is this what you want to do? And I said, yes. And he said, are you willing to do whatever it takes to get this to happen? And I said, yes. He said, good times and bad times. And I said, yes. He said, even if it gets hard? I was like, yeah, duh, dude. Not actually knowing how hard this journey was about to be. But he said, okay, listen, if you are committed to this and you really won't give up and you want to try, I will help you. He said, I will teach you beat rhyming. So beat rhyming is what you heard me do earlier in Roselle. It's when you talk a beatbox, right? Can you break it down to the rhythm, to the sound for it? We got the hidden beat and we got the hidden pump. Right? It's when you incorporate words and singing and can, really create whatever song that you want to. And I said, oh my God, you're going to teach me how to talk and beatbox? Woo, this is amazing. I'm on Easy Street now. I got a mentor. I'm going to learn how to talk and beatbox. Oh my gosh, this is incredible. I bet you in 365 days, 1 year from now, my life is going to be completely different. I'm going to be on all the magazines. I'm going to be whatever, right? Not the case. But I was in the beginning of my journey. So kid said, all right, listen, you come to the city. I will help you and we'll start performing together. We'll get you some shows. But here I am, this 19-year-old from Long Island, barely been in New York City. I have no connections. I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't have anybody to go perform to. I have no resources or venues or anything. So I'm sitting there like, oh, yeah, well, I'd like to, but, I don't really have anywhere to go. And he's like, well, let's come in tomorrow. And I was like, yeah, that would be good, but, there's nowhere for me to perform, so I guess I can't. And he was like, hold up, kid. He's like, you want to perform? You don't have anywhere to go or no one to show? All right, well, the world is your stage. Go prove to people that they should put you on a stage. So the way we did this was street performing, right? So literally, basically 6 days a week, 5 days a week, I would make just enough money street performing. Sometimes like, maybe it was like $30. I would stay all day until I made $30 so that I could take the train back to Long Island and come back the next day. Sometimes that took 2 hours, sometimes it took 10 hours, whatever it took, right? Basically, once I was in the city, I was trapped there until I could get my way home and back again. And I was super excited to perform until I figured out the way that Kid beat rhymes, okay? Because Kid didn't want to do like the theater, comedy, storytelling version of beatboxing and talking. No, Kid did the singing and rapping and poetry side of beat rhyming. And that wouldn't probably have been an issue for some, but it was a big issue for me. Because you see, when I was in 6th grade, I literally made a vow to the high heavens that nobody ever in the history of the world would hear my voice again. You see, I probably had one of the top 10 worst auditions ever known to man. I was in 6th grade going to try out for my show choir at my school, and I practiced Colors of the Wind by Pocahontas. And friends, let me tell you, I was like ready for this thing. I did it for my mom. I did it for my dog. I did it for my grandma. I did it for my neighbors. Like, put me on stage. I'm ready to get first place. Let's go. Right. And I'm ready. I'm ready to rock and roll. I get there. I'm all confident. Right. And as soon as I hear the first note on the piano, everything changed. I mean, I just looked like a deer in the headlights. I completely froze. My hands started just like convulsing and shaking like uncontrollably. I start profusely sweating. Like I didn't even know that a 6th grader could sweat that much. I am like rain on me, Lady Gaga sweating bullets. And when I go to sing, I sound like I was going through like super puberty, like mega puberty. My voice was cracking the whole time, and I had to perform the whole song, like a 1 minute, 2 minute song, like this. Like, can you sing with the colors of the rainbow? Like, not a sound came out. And I was so embarrassed that from that moment on, I said, never, ever again will I put myself in this position. And for 10 years, that was completely true. I was even in my chorus in my senior year of high school, and I lip sync the whole time. And like my class knew, my teacher knew, everyone knew, like, you are not going to hear me ever sing again. But here, I had this person that said, "Oh, this is the thing that you want? You want this? Oh, this is your dream? No problem. I'll show you how to get your dream. You just have to do the thing that you're most afraid of, you're most ashamed of, the thing that you're most vulnerable of, the thing that makes you just like quiver and melt on the inside. Hey, you still want this thing? Is it worth this? Right?" And for me, it was. So I started street performing in New York City, learning how to sing and rap and put it all together with my beatboxing, and it was pretty terrible. I'll show you a quick clip of what that looked like. Please don't judge me. We'll see how this goes, right?
All day, every single day. We feel alive, we feel good. We feel alive, we feel good. How y'all feeling?
I mean, you can tell I'm pretty nervous. I'm like, bum, bum. We feel alive, we feel good, bum. What do I say next? We feel alive, we feel good. Back to you, right? I hated this, friends. I hated it. I hated it more than anything, to the point where I would wake up every day on my way to go to the train, and I would just think, I would spend so much time being like, how do I get out of this? Like, what do I have to do? Like, how do I give myself the most like minor food poisoning? Like, I will just go eat a little bit of food from the garbage, give myself an upset stomach, I don't have to go, right? Or I'd be like, how do I get in like the most minor car crash? Like, nothing major, just like a little fender bender, but like, sprain my pinky and I can get out of this. I spent so much time thinking about how to get out of this that looking back, I should have just been practicing. I wasted a lot of time. But Kid was a very strict mentor, so I knew that if I didn't show up, the headache of him just yelling at me and really letting me have it would be way worse than not showing up, unfortunately. So every day I would come in, and I felt so ashamed. I felt so insecure. I was literally having like nightmares of being on the street and making the first sound. Because in New York City, I mean, thousands of people are passing you. Everyone's just late. You just wake up 20 minutes late in New York City. I don't know how it happens. You know, everyone's grumpy. They're in the way. You're in their way. You're loud. I wasn't good back then. So making that first noise on the microphone was the scariest moment, because then everyone would stop and look at you and give you all these side eyes and stuff. But looking back now, this time period in my life and in my career was the best. This is when I grew the most. And not just as an artist, as a person. Because I realize now, looking back at this moment and remembering how much I hated it and how insecure and ashamed it made me feel, that the most important thing that I learned from this was I was getting comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Even though I felt ashamed, I felt nervous, I felt terrified, I would literally get like sweaty and shaky before I had to perform, and my voice would still crack on the mic. I was still completing my task anyway and following through with what I had set out to do, right? I was getting comfortable being in that uncomfortable feeling with all those icky feelings, but still doing it anyway. And this point in my life, the things that the days that I wake up now where I don't really want to do it, I don't really feel good, I'm nervous, it's a really big show, this practice of following through with it anyway has changed my whole life, right? And it's not like after the second street performance that I did, or the third or the 50th or the 100th or the 10th, that I just woke up one day and those feelings went away. No, I still get nervous to perform before I go on stage. Like every time I get those uncomfortable feelings. If I'm in a battle, I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? The alarms go off, right? But practicing going through with it anyway will allow me to keep going after these things that I want, because fear is normal. Doubts are normal. You're always going to think that you suck, right? You're always going to be afraid. You're going to think, oh, what are people going to think, right? Oh, I'm not as good as this person. I'm not as good as that. That's how our normal brain works, okay? Our brain is trying to protect us from doing things that are scary. But change only happens when we are in that place of vulnerability and when we're in that unsure place, right? So when we put ourselves in a risky situation, it's going to go two ways. It's either going to go really good and amazing, and you're going to knock it out of the park. And then afterwards, you're going to go, oh man, this went amazing. What were the things that I did that made that go so well, right? And you're going to remember that and use that for the next time. Or it's going to not go so well. You're going to kind of stumble through it. You're going to be a little nervous. Maybe you're going to make some mistakes. And then you're going to look back at that experience and you're going to say, okay, what didn't go well here? What can I learn from this? What can I do differently next time? And either way, boom, it's going to get you to a better place. So I really encourage you, where are those moments in your life right now where you can get comfortable being uncomfortable? Maybe it's a uncomfortable conversation that you've been putting off with a friend or family member, right? Maybe it's an application or going out for a job interview of this thing that you think that you can't get, right? Maybe it's just picking up that new skill, or, you know, it's the new year. Maybe it's that thing that you've been putting off and saying that you want to do, get in better shape, read more books, learn that new instrument, whatever that is, go after it now, because it's going to be like working out. At first it's hard and it's heavy, but once you go into this situation now that you're comfortable with, it's going to feel like nothing. It's like going from 500 pounds lifting it to now it feels like 20 pounds. And it's going to be easier and easier for us to go through these uncomfortable situations or risky or things that make us nervous, right? So from this, I started doing more things that made me nervous because I was seeing how much I was growing from it. And one thing that made me really nervous was the idea of battling in the United States, because in the US, it was the only country at this point, or maybe one of the only countries in the world that didn't segregate men and women from battling each other. So all of the other battles in the world, there was a women's category and a men's category. But in the United States, we've never had that. It's always been open. So I kind of looked at the rest of my friends and the rest of the artists that were in my community at the time. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just as good as these people. And I felt the responsibility as a woman at this point, because I had the ability to battle against men, that I should, to kind of show the rest of the world that women were capable of it, right? Because we're not boxing each other. This isn't a boxing match. It's a match of who can make the craziest, coolest fart noises in a cool, flowy way that makes the crowd go, whoa, right? That's how you win a beatbox battle. But I was nervous as heck, because at this point, you know, right now in the beatboxing community, the sexism is pretty bad, but it was way, 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 way worse back in 2012 and 2013. Basically, it was this very weird thing of like people telling me or girls what they can do with their bodies, but instead of like reproductive rights or like what to wear, what to do, it was like what sounds we can make with our mouth, right? So I tried to try out for the battle for a few years, and I finally got in. My first battle was in 2013. And the whole time before this battle, everyone was like, Kayla, you're not going to make it in. Like, yeah, sure, girls and guys can beatbox battle together, but like, come on, like, it's not going to happen. Or they'd be like, Kayla, why are you even trying? Like, what, you're going to get in and then a guy's going to beatbox fast? And like, what are you going to do? Because everybody knows that girls can't beatbox fast. Like, it's like physically impossible for a girl to beatbox fast. Like, a girl would never be able to go like, like, it's not your fault, Kayla. I think it's because, like, I don't know. I think it's because, like, you got, like, long hair, your boobs get in the way or something like that. Or they'd be like, Kayla, like, you're going to get into this beatbox battle? What are you doing? You're going to be so embarrassed. You're going to go up against this guy. He's going to be doing low notes, and girls can't go low at all. A girl could never do a bass sound. They can never be like... right? It's just physically impossible. I think it's because, like, you have periods or something, or you're, like, synced with the moon. I don't really know, right? And I was mad. I was mad because everyone was trying to tell me what I could do and couldn't do. So I trained like crazy, and I finally get into this battle, and just like my audition, I was feeling pretty good until I actually got to the event. And when I got to the event, now all of a sudden everybody was outside, they're all beatboxing. I saw the stage for the first time. Oh my gosh, the stage is not like the street. There's lights, there's crazy speakers. It's packed with people, and those alarms start going off in my mind again, right? They're like, get the hell out of here. What are you doing? Eat some trash from the garbage. Give yourself food poisoning. Just happen to get locked in like the basement. Like, what can you do to get out of this moment right now? But luckily, I had been practicing having those feelings, having those thoughts go through my head, but going through with it anyway, right? So I get on stage and I'm so nervous. And in my head, I'm like, please, universe or whatever's out there, just give me somebody easy. Because all I wanted to do was prove to the world that a girl could beat a guy. Everybody online is, oh, girls suck at beatboxing. They can't do this. They should have separate categories. Girls can never beat a guy. So in my head, I'm like, please, let me just beat one guy. Because if I beat one guy, then the conversation will just be over, right? There'll be proof, and then boom, no one can say that anymore. But of course, the universe does not give you what you want. It gives you what you need. And apparently in that moment, I needed to go up against the hardest guy in the competition, like a previous champion. So here I am. I'm like, oh no, here comes this guy. The alarms are going off, right? But I give it everything I got. I do the... right? I do my rounds, and what feels like 10 lifetimes go by. It was probably 30 seconds. And when the judges decide who won, they all pointed to me, and I became the first woman to ever beat a guy in a national competition. So now I'm like buzzing, right? I'm like, oh my God, heck yeah, I did it. Oh my gosh, everybody had told me I couldn't. And now there's proof that a girl could beat a guy, so this conversation will be over forever. Oh my God, equality, let's go. And I go to give this guy a high five. And the first thing he does, right? He like pulls me in Mortal Kombat style. He was like, and he says, you only won because you're a girl. And I was like, what? I was like, I only won because I'm a girl? What does that even mean? I was like, what does it mean that I only won because I was a girl? And then I was like, wait. No, you can't say that. Because first of all, everyone was telling me I couldn't do it because I was a girl and that I would never be able to do it and I could never win. And now you're saying I only did it because I was a girl? No, you have to pick one. You have to pick one or the other, right? But it was never one or the other. It was always both, right? When I came into my community, being one of the only females, it was always... that was the reason why I got picked for things, right? If I won a battle, it wasn't because maybe I trained really hard and I practiced and I was a good beatboxer and a good artist. No, it's because they felt bad for me. The judges pitied me, so they let me win the whole competition. Or if I got a gig or if I got a TV show or any of these things, right? It wasn't because of my skill and my talent. No, it was just because I was a woman. That was the only reason why I could ever deserve to get this thing, right? And this is going to happen to you in your life as well. People will try to find something about you. And it could be anything. It could be where you come from, your race, your religion, your gender, your sexual identity, your gender identity, the way you talk, the things that you like, what your parents do for a living, right? It doesn't matter. People will try to find that thing because on their way to success, first people will tell you you can't do it, and then they're going to try to knock you down. And I hope just knowing, when we know that these things are going to happen, it can kind of let us dodge these words or criticisms. And really, what I hope you do is not do what I did, because I probably did the worst thing that anybody could ever do. I went down a 2-year rabbit hole where I tried to just put the weight of females on my shoulder and prove everybody wrong, right? So as soon as somebody said that a girl couldn't do something, I'd be like, oh yeah, girls can't do click rolls, and I would go back home and I would train for months, literally like 6 months to a year, right? Hey, that thing you said girls can't do, I did it. So you can admit that girls and guys are equal now, right? And you were wrong. Whoa, no, I wouldn't say that. Maybe you could do this, but you can't do that. Oh, so I go back home. Hey, that thing that you said I can't do, I did it, right? So you can admit that you were wrong. No. But what about this? And I would go do it. What about this? And it didn't matter how many times I came back and showed them this thing that they said was impossible. It was never enough. And they would always try to catch me. There'd always be a caveat, right? Wait a minute. Before we give you just like decent respect, this thing. And they were always trying to catch me in this. And it all culminated into this literal 2-year spiral that I went down, where I was trying to prove myself to the whole world. Like, people from all over the world are saying this in my community. And the reason why I stopped that was I went to this battle in 2015 in Switzerland, and I did a performance. And when I got off stage, it was like the spell had been lifted. I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, who the hell was that? Who was that? Because that wasn't a Kaila Mullady performance. It wasn't bad per se, but it just wasn't me. Everything from like how I was acting on stage, what I was saying, the music that I was choosing to make was coming from like this ego, I'm going to prove to you that I could do it thing. And it was nothing that I would have chose on my own. And when I got off stage, I was mad and I was like, what is going on? It literally doesn't matter what I do in this community. It's never enough. It doesn't matter if I do this. It doesn't matter if oh, snap. Like, oh my God, it doesn't matter. Like, I do not have to have the responsibility, and I do not have to be the person that changes the mind of people who are ignorant, right? That's not my responsibility. If they want to think that those things, have those biases, that's on them. I do not have to prove my self-worth to anybody. And then, you know what? I had this freedom thought where I said, if it doesn't matter anyway, whether it goes good or whether it goes bad, if they're still going to say the same thing anyway, then that kind of frees me up to do whatever I want. And that moment, going down that rabbit hole, of course that sucked, but it really made me realize that I should not be listening to other people's opinions about myself. I should not be waiting for people to tell me who I am. I have to be in charge of my own thoughts. I have to be my number one friend. I have to know who I am. And I have to be so strong in that faith and that opinion of who I am and who I'm going to be, that it doesn't matter if the whole world tells me something that not even going to think about that thought. It's not even going to touch me, right? And in this moment, things started to change for me. I went back to going and just doing theatrical stuff. And I went back and just doing singing and beatboxing stuff and doing, performances and writing music that was actually authentic. And once I did that, things started to change. And it's this moment in my life that if I didn't have that don't let plan A philosophy in my head, I think this is when I would have jumped ship. Because not only was I being like disrespected from like the whole world of my community, literally people from all parts of the world were just talking trash about me. I was not really loving the performances I was doing. I was feeling like I lost a piece of myself. I was also broke as a joke at this point, like negative monies. I made a decision to move into New York City, probably a little too soon. And I moved into this apartment, and my roommate just forgot to tell me that it wasn't $600 a month. It was $850 a month. And I was like, what? Wait, what? Like, I didn't even know how I was going to afford $600 a month. That was a stretch. Now you're telling me it's an extra $250. What am I going to do? And what I did was just sell everything that I owned. Like, if I had a family heirloom that had been in my family forever, I'd be like, oh, this thing that is literally priceless. Oh, you'll give me $37? Okay, here you go. I was street performing every day. I was eating just rice, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If I took a subway, like a stop to go somewhere, I would street perform in that subway. Like, I was scrounging and I was struggling for everything, right? But I wouldn't let plan A fail. I knew that this was something that I wanted to do. So I just was like, all right, I have to rethink, I have to replan, I have to come up with new ideas that's still going to get this across. And once I got back from that trip in Switzerland, that's when I rethought everything. I was like, what is it that I want to do? What is it that's going to make me a one-of-one performer and have no competition? Nobody will sound and do the shows that I'm going to do. How do I become that, right? So I started to get back to myself. I started to really just do things that made me happy. And that's when everything changed, right? That's when I started actually getting asked to be on shows where my name was on the flyer. I didn't have to just perform on the street anymore. People were inviting me to do shows and come to their venues. I was getting asked to travel outside of the country or outside of the state to perform first, right? Huge things started to change. I got asked to go on TV shows, and I got asked to do some commercials, corporate events, right?
A bit of 3, not a bit of 4, not a bit of sold.
And, some makeup commercials and TV shows, right? And it all culminated into where I am now, slowly but surely. Every month and every year, things started to change for me. So this whole process has been like a 9-year process. But something really cool happened at the beginning of last year. So we're almost a year away from it now. It's all culminated into a life now where I get to travel the world beatboxing. I get to teach people beatboxing in a way that I want to teach, not just in a way that, I was learning to teach at the school that I was learning at. And I got to last year hand my family tickets to a Broadway show where I was beatboxing and doing improv comedy. It was called Freestyle Love Supreme, and it's part of Lin-Manuel Miranda's musical improv group. So if you know Lin-Manuel Miranda, he's the guy who wrote and starred in Hamilton, In the Heights, he's in Dark Shadows, and all these amazing performances and shows. And it was his musical improv group, where now I was performing alongside Wayne Brady, UTK, David Diggs, Shockwave, right? Anthony Vininciali, all these incredible performers. I was getting to be on stage doing the thing that I wanted to do, theater and beatboxing, and putting them together. And I have to tell you, friends, it felt really, really good when I was handing my family tickets to this play, right? Like, I kind of remembered, I was like, hey, Aunt Pat, here you go. Here's your ticket. Remembering all those things that she was telling to me when we would have family interventions about the career path that I was going to go on, right? And this is something that I never imagined in my wildest dreams or in my life. In fact, this show wasn't even around when I decided I wanted to do this. It's not like, if I wanted to become a singer, I could have had this idea that, hey, maybe I'll do Broadway, maybe I'll do a choir, maybe I'll become a, famous pop singer. No, as a beatboxer, I didn't know that I could star in a beatboxing show on Broadway, especially improvised. That's never happened before. And yet I had to just trust myself and trust that if this is what I wanted to do, and if I work hard enough for it, and I just stay humble and patient, that good things will come. And they did, right? In fact, the thing that I'm most proud of now is not that I don't have to struggle, financially or just eat rice anymore. Or now people in my community actually respect me and have actually apologized for the way that they've treated me. The thing that I'm most proud of is that I kept my passions and the things that mean the most to me throughout my life the whole time, right? I think that a common thing that happens to us when we get older, and so I'm 28 now, just so you know. So I started when I was about 19. So when we're around our 19, 20-year-old age, this thing happens where our family members or our friends and all these people are kind of like, hey, it's time to grow up, okay? So like, hey, Tyrone, you love baseball? Maybe you're a person who loves baseball and finances and like baseball cards. You get to this point where your family's like, it's time to grow up, Tyrone. It's time to, what are you going to be, an MLB star? You're not going to make it to Major League Baseball. So just put on the suit and tie and go into finances and you're done with the baseball life, right? But there's ways that we can still keep those things with us forever, right? Maybe you won't be a player in the MLB, but you can be a video editor for the MLB, right? You can, you can edit videos for them. You could be security guard at a baseball stadium. You can help people. Let's put our passions together. If you love finances and baseball cards, maybe you're a financial advisor who works with athletes, teaching athletes how to save their money and properly invest. Maybe you have a side hustle where you teach people how to trade baseball cards, right? There's always a way that we can put things together. And for me, my 3 things were music, theater, and education. Just because I didn't want to become like a teacher at a school and go down that path, I still loved working with kids, right? I've always worked with kids my whole life. So I figured out a way that I could do that in my own way. And the way I could do that was creating a music therapy and speech therapy program with beatboxing. And it was going really well. I started teaching at schools, and one of my favorite schools that I ever worked with was a blind school where we were using beatboxing as a tool for speech therapy, right? Because if I'm beatboxing, I'm just talking, but articulating the letters of my speech, right? That's why people say boots and cats and booty. It's just BTK, right? Or PTK. So I started this program, and about 4 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, I wanted to expand it because it was going really well. But the only way that I could expand the program was to get support from higher academic institutes, or if I could get researching or funding. And I didn't know how to do any of those things. I was literally a street performing beatboxer who liked, teaching people beatboxing, but I didn't know how to actually get this to become a thing. So what did I do? I was like, okay, kind of take the street performing approach. I'm just going to cold email as many people as I can. So I literally emailed and tried to call and left messages for like 500 to 600 speech therapists, colleges, anybody who worked at a college in and around New York City or New Jersey. I mean, I sent a million, well, not a million. I sent 500 to 600 emails for sure. And I heard 500 to 600 no's. In this 1 year and a half of my life, I heard more no's than I think I've ever heard in my entire life to this day. Everything I tried was just like no, or no answer, or no reply, right? But again, I was like, okay, don't let plan A fail. What is not working with these emails I'm sending? So instead of being like giving up and being like, okay, nobody likes this program sucks and I suck and that's it for me, I would look at what I just wrote and be like, what about this is not catching their attention? So I would change the text, right? Or I would change, maybe I should add a video. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that, right? And after 600 no's and a year and a half to 2 years of trying, I finally got one yes. And it was the one yes I needed. This woman from NYU came to the classroom. She was very interested. And she saw this huge breakthrough in my class with one of my students. And she invited us to NYU, who is now one of our biggest research project partners. We do research in their labs. We do research actually doing endoscopies with world famous beatboxers, trying to figure out what's going on in the throats. But it took me 600 no's to get this one yes, right? So I want to show you a little bit of what I do in the classroom, right? Because there was a point where I was literally, those doubts in my head were like, maybe I am just ridiculous and I am just stupid and I think that this is important, but it's not important, right? But the reason why I kept doing it was because I was seeing my students change and I was seeing their reaction to it. So I'll show you a quick clip of the classroom and kind of what it was like, and you'll kind of understand why I had to just keep fighting through, and no matter what no's I heard, I had to get that one yes. Here we go. How do we practice talking and beatboxing at the same time?
Okay, so we'll pick a word that has a beatboxing beat.
Okay.
And with that beat, we'll repeat it.
Remember now?
Sing.
So Shelly, what is a good word that has some beatboxing sounds in it?
Buttercup.
Woo! Okay, you do remember what beat rhyming is, right? Guys, can we all try to do that? Can we go butter?
Butter.
Yeah, make some noise for Remy and Shelly! Shelly, oh my gosh, your sounds are so cool now. And I can tell that this summer you must have been working on beatboxing because, or singing, because now your confidence is like through the roof. You're shining, Shelly.
Yes.
That's amazing. How do you feel?
Like for me, beatboxing is feeling the rhythm. And once I feel the rhythm inside of me, that's when I show it.
Can I ask a question?
Yes!
You big box, do you feel good or terrific?
I feel terrific. I feel awesome. I feel like that it's my inner me. And I'm just so awesome that I'm able to express that about myself. Because you guys know me as quiet and I'm like the shy type.
I don't know you as that shy.
When you see the beatboxing me, I show this different side of me that no one else sees.
Oh, Shelly, I love that. And I think when we make... Right? So it's what she said. When I beatbox, I show the side of me that no one else sees. That was me. I went from the kid who literally made a vow to the high heavens for nobody to hear my voice again, right? I would not sing or speak in front of anybody because I was so ashamed of one moment that happened so long ago, into now being able to perform in front of thousands of people. And now, because of this program and the other programs that I created, I teach like 10,000 plus people a year, right? So I went from somebody who maybe teaching wasn't that path for me, going and being like an elementary school teacher. That wasn't my path, right? But I had to create my own path. And when we are on a place to create our own path, that it's hard because there's nobody who can answer these questions for you, right? I have to every day be the person in the jungle carving this path for myself. There's no path to get to, beatboxing in theater life, or beatboxing in education life, or, a musical beatbox life. Every day I have to be my own motivator, my own discipline, my own boss, and I have to be the person who gets up early, stays up late, and tries to make these connections happen. But it's possible, right? So before we end, I see I have a question in the chat. If anybody else has a question, feel free to throw it in the chat and I'll get to it towards the end. I just have a few things before I get to those questions. So I just want to leave you with a few things that have really helped me on my path, okay? So of course, I don't expect everyone to become a world champion beatboxer. If you do wanna, hit me up. Let's go. Let's hang out. We'll jam out. But I know that if I had the possibility to make this happen in this very weird, unique niche career, anything that you want to make happen, whether that be career-wise or just intrapersonally, like the person that you want to become, you can do it. Right? So the first thing on my path is just embrace what makes you different, okay? Don't do what I did. Don't try to prove to the world or try to become somebody that you're not, okay? You are you for a reason. You have life experiences that literally nobody else has in the world. You are the only person who has your life. So you're the only person that has your experience, your value or advice or your opinions or thoughts that you can bring to the table. So embrace those, okay? Don't let people try to tear you down with them trying to tell you who you are. You have to believe in yourself. Bring that. Be authentic. That's what the world needs right now. We need people who will speak up and share their thoughts and opinions and just be authentic in this world. Next is get comfortable doing the uncomfortable, okay? If I didn't take the risk to go on that street corner and just put myself out there and feel terrible and really just mess up a lot of times and a lot of shows, I wouldn't be where I am now. I would still be the person that wouldn't be able to do karaoke with her friends or speak up or, make a toast at a wedding. I would be somebody who would be so ashamed of her voice still and just that anxious, uncomfortable person. So, practice that. Everything in life comes with the practice. So practice putting yourselves in those positions, right? Study your passion. Of course, this time period is terrible. We are in quarantine. We're, afraid for our safety and our family's safety. But one thing that comes from this is we'll have time like we will never have again, okay? Whether we're in our dorms or at home, we're going to be able to, that time that it would have been from going to this place to the other place, you have that now. So use that time to become the person you want to be. Pick up that instrument you want, read those books, go and work out, whatever those things are that you want. Use this time that we have now to make that happen. And a really good way to do that and to become more disciplined is to create a daily routine, right? Habits, create these habits of these new lives. Last two things are just no one knows you better than you know yourself. If I listened to all the people who told me I couldn't do it, whether that's my friends, my family member, or people in my community, I wouldn't be where I am now, right? So you're the only person who knows what you're capable of. So you have to be your number one support and ally, okay? If you're saying bad things in your head and then someone comes along and says a bad thing, it's going to tear you down real easily, right? So we need to be our number one supports. We need to be kind to ourselves with what we think. And lastly, we need to surround ourselves with people who are going to inspire us to be better, okay? If you have friends that are making fun of you or knocking you for your dreams, you got to find some new friends, okay? If you have friends that are kind of, hey, come on, let's just go out, let's party, what's one night, all this stuff, right? We need to be with people that are going to inspire us and keep us accountable. It really helps, right? And lastly is just consider me your resource. I'm here if you have any questions. Of course, it might not be in your field, but if there's something you need advice on or just want to talk through or vent through, find me online at Kaila Mullady. And the least thing I can do is just give you an ear of understanding. I'm definitely here for you. So thank you so much, y'all. Please know that whatever you want to do in life is capable. Last thing, I'll just hit this question real quick. Becky said that she saw our show in FLS, and she said, now that I created my ultimate goal of combining theater and beatboxing, what do I do now? And how do I keep these new goals? And for me, it's just, I'm always trying to be the best version of myself. Yes, I've done a beatboxing and theater show on Broadway, but now I want to do another one. That's my story that I want to tell. And I want to inspire more people around the world to go after their dreams. Because if I can do it, I am no different than any of you. It's just been a lot of hard work and patience and a lot of failing that got me to where I am today. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Carrie, and the whole team for bringing me out. I hope that soon we'll be able to actually meet in person and beatbox with each other. But until then, this has been such a great time. Feel free to message me whenever you like. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you for sharing your story with us today and inspiring us to use our voices. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us. Our guest next week will be Robert Lang, a pioneer in computational origami. Until then, be well and be kind.